Morning, everybody out there in property world. Hello there, hello there. We have a big announcement today, or actually, this is going to be one of our announcement webinars to talk about some of the news that was out yesterday. So I am delighted to have with me Mr. Gary Barker, doubling up as a doorman at some salubrious address on Park Lane, I imagine. How are you, Gary?
Yeah, jolly good, Simon. Yeah, as you quite rightly put it, I am. I thought I'd, just go for a walk down Park Lane, see how everything was, forget my keys to the office, that kind of thing. But that's fine. It's no drama.
It shows how in touch with the common people you are, just willing to mix it out there on Park Lane. As usual, left in speechless. That's what I'm going for.
I'm not commenting on that at all. There is no argument for that.
I'm Andrew Stanton. Hello there, Mr. Proptech. How are you, sir?
I am very, very well. And I am so excited to be on this odyssey with Mr. Whale.
Wow, I put the odd in Odyssey, so let's kick that off as I think the press release. So this is all basically, gents. This is all dealing with the news yesterday that broke yesterday. Obviously, that there was a couple of things. eProp is going to be branding to Nurtur, and you'll understand why it's going to be Nurtur in a second as we touch into this. But I think the big news, of course, is that a new Proptech fund was going to be launching. Backed and indeed orientated by Mr. Barker himself. They've gone for some fantastic Messi and Ronaldo style outside talent, but we'll come back to that in a minute there.
I called it free transfers.
Free transfer, yeah, okay, yeah.
Deadline day, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It's more like Dele Alli to Everton then. Okay, fair enough. Okay, Gary, let's just give us a bit of context here. Okay, Nurtur, I think, will come to the fore. We'll spend another show talking about the rebrand there. But we're here to focus on this key element, of course, about a new Proptech fund launching. Can you talk to us? And again, let me just caveat this, because there's a lot of suspicious people, as you know, out there in property world. Maybe just caveating it as to why they should be interested in it, and it's not just a bit of that background news that is not going to be relevant to them, because I think that's one of the risks, isn't it? Can you just let us know how it came about?
Yeah, so look, I mean, I think what was the eProp group has been around for a long time. It's got Guild, Fine and Country, and it had a very traditional kind of offering, and it had its own technology. And then over probably the last couple of years, it's been looking at itself and going, well, how can it add more value to its members? And that's when it started becoming much more of a tech group, and, adding the fantastic companies of Starbury and Lepro and Property Jungle. Amazing. And we sat there, and I remember sitting at the board meeting saying, well, how do we bring more technology to not just our customer base, but the actual wider market as well? Because we talked about how difficult it is. You can have great ideas, but actually, how do you bring them to the market? And it's such a challenging period, because you can have a great idea, but it's expensive. So what we looked at is saying, well, what do we have as a team? Well, we've got a great team of experienced kind of real estate professionals. We've got a great customer network. We've got fantastic kind of support from our shareholders and investors. Why aren't we going out and widening the appeal of property technology? And that was the framework for this. Okay. And I think we're lucky enough that Mark Phillips, who's the chairman of the Nurtur Group, he's actually ran these funds before, and he said, when you run an industry-based fund for the industry, it makes it a massive appeal, because actually people feel like you're doing something for that industry. So I have to say, I mean, that's the reason why it came about. And every Proptech business will have different challenges, as you will know. You've worked with a lot of them. They all have their own different challenges, and our aim at Nurtur is to effectively do that. We want to nurture each business and say, okay, you've got a challenge with sales, you've got a challenge with marketing or branding or technology or scaling or messaging, whatever it may well be. We've tried to create a diverse board and framework that can actually help people do that. And I think the other thing as well is we will absolutely have the right technology for people to kind of integrate with. We've found that, Lepro and Starbury and TPJ, they've been able to integrate into the customer base really well. And that's the aim of this, is to create platforms that people can connect to.
Great stuff. Okay, well, we'll come back to the structure in a bit more detail there. But as I said, that's given a good overview in terms of obviously where the idea came from. And it does strike me that that's actually, it's just a bit of a sliding doors moment, isn't it? Where actually the opportunity of the network tied up with the people, and then the ability to get access to the right funding just presents itself at actually a perfect moment in time, doesn't it, to kind of double down on this. But also to just talk about doubling down, as we spoke about there, you've got some stellar people clearly in that group, which I'll ask you to just talk about in a bit more detail now. Obviously, as I've always said, some dashing outside advisors, and I'm coming to you, Andrew. Please just wait there. Don't worry about it. Gary, just talk to us about, though, the talent that's actually inside the group there, because obviously there are some really heavy hitters. And look, for those people that have been under a rock, just give the briefest of outlines of where those people have been and what they can offer.
Yeah, I mean, so if we start from,
don't miss anyone out.
This is the bit I've now got to make sure I don't miss anybody out. But I mean, I'm going to start with John Cook, because I think for everybody who knows John, I think it was only a few years ago he kind of won, the biggest accolade in the industry for kind of being, the superstar that he is. And his background is just purely agency. I mean, if you think about it, he set up his own agency. He then went part of LSL, ran LSLI, formed that whole network of franchisees, which was unbelievable. He was then involved in the Guild of Agents. And then more recently has combined that up with Guild, Fine and Country, and had the vision to actually make the acquisitions for Starbury Property Jungle. So John's been around. I was joking with him yesterday. I was joking with him yesterday, saying I might put in the press release that you've got over 40 years of experience, but I thought that's probably a bit harsh. But 30 years probably counts.
And you talk about that experience, Gary. You talk about that experience, but why I judge him on tech points is I think I tried to sell him my old software about 6 or 7 times, and he said no to me every time. So that's a pretty.
He was clearly right. He was clearly right. He got his technology bit. Although I'm not sure I should comment on that, because I think we bought it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's true. Okay, so on to the next one. Give us the next of the dirty dozen.
The next let's go for Ian McKenzie. So yes. Ian is, he's the CEO of Guild and Fine and Country. So we talk about Nurtur now, and we talk about Nurtur Network. That is Ian McKenzie. He is Mr. Network now. So he's responsible for that whole network platform. I mean, I've had the privilege of working with Ian when I was at Countrywide. So he was one of the regional directors, divisional directors at Countrywide. And he was there, in that successful period when, in fairness, when it got to be valued at, £1 billion. So he was part of the success there. And as a result, real estate and partnerships is in his DNA. He is Mr. Network. He networks in a different way to me in that he's professional. But he actually, I think he has been, I think he's been so central to the reconnection with the Guild client base, really getting out there, living and breathing and empathizing with their issues there. One of those sickening people that I don't think I've ever heard a bad word against, so I have to make stuff up. But Ian, absolutely big tick in the box. Great one there. Come on then, next out. Who's out? All right, the next one I'm going to flag is one of my kind of super fans of the industry, which is Mr. Digital himself, Ben Sellers. Starbury CEO. And as I said, I referred to him as Mr. Digital yesterday, but I know you know Ben exceptionally well. But we followed Starbury together for a long, long time, and I mean that business, when it comes to brand, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to digital journeys, they have got it sewn up.
They're so far ahead of the curve, aren't they? I mean, literally, if you want to be, you're not allowed to bite at this, Andrew. But when people talk about AI and blockchain and all of that sort of stuff, the point about turning that information and important stuff, but into relevance that's going to impact on a estate agent, that's when you want somebody like Ben working with somebody else I just mentioned a moment ago on your side, isn't it? So yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I'm not just doing this as a roll call of vanity. There's a very real reason for this, isn't it? Because what we're hopefully seeing is a really good spread of skills and experience that's going to be able to help those companies obviously develop. So who else are we missing then as well from the group?
Well, I mean, who are the other two that I should probably mention? I think, do you know what? I'm gonna. Of course, I'll start with Andrew first. And Andrew, go on. You introduce yourself, because we've been talking a lot, and I gave you a heads up about this kind of program a few months ago before we were setting it up. And you know, I was obviously a huge fan of yours from the Proptech X field, in terms of what you were doing there. And in fairness, you're very close to a lot of these kind of early startup growing businesses with what you do anyway. So I mean.
Yeah. So
I won't put words in your mouth.
If this bit's not about me, I'm going to go get a coffee.
It's not about you.
Andrew, over to you. Give us what are you going to bring to the table, Andrew? What for those people again under a rock that don't know, how are you going to be able to help support this venture?
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing for me is I just want to help agents. And for the last 6 years, that's what I've been doing. And I felt for a long time I was like a lone voice out there wailing at everyone, saying, get software into your business. We're all digital now. And being an agent for like over 30 years, if someone had come along, I'd said, yeah, irrelevant. Look, I'm just doing the day job. Now, I've dealt with about 90 founders of tech companies as clients. And as Gary said earlier, they've all got different problems. They all want to scale. They all want to help companies, real estate companies, you know, be more profitable, be more efficient. But they themselves have problems. So when I sort of got to look at all of this, I thought, well, do I want to really be in an organization again? Because being my own person for the last 6 years, I'm thinking, well, where would I fit? But the second this came along, I thought, well, actually, they've got the missing part. They've actually got the agents as an integral part of the DNA of the whole setup. And what I see a lot of the time is founders building great solutions and agents out there with big problems, and they're not the same thing. And I'm thinking, well, this is just, you know, a mix of both. I mean, you talk about Ian McKenzie. I know Ian. You know, he's got a fantastic background in agency. There's such a cross correlation between all of us, you know, backgrounds in agencies, countrywide, Connells, just to name a few. But we're all real estate people. A friend of mine, surveyor, he said, God, you know, you're going to be a property man till you die, Stanton. And he's absolutely right. But what agents need now is the digital tools to do the work in the 2020s and 2030s. And all we're looking to do is to provide them with those things. You know, and I've become kind of like Dr. Doolittle. I can talk both languages. I can talk to agents because all they want to do is, Andrew, should I use this? And I go, yes. And they trust me because I'm one of them. I'm not like you, a reseller, Simon. I'm a kind of, yeah, this will really help you. So I'm ultra, you know, I'm so excited because I get involved with tons and tons.
That is an excited looking face from Andrew Stanton. I mean, you get him up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and this is the excited face you get.
But the truth is, I mean,
but importantly, everyone, he has shaved this morning, which he reliably let me know. Yeah,
I've been up since 2:30 on calls, and that's why I look so excited.
I thought you were just excited like Christmas. I thought that was, you know,
breakfast. But yeah, I think this is so different to anything else that's out there. And people always go, "Oh, this is going to be game changing or whatever." But it already has, because of the people who are going to drive it forward. We understand their, you know, everyone's problems, the tech company's problems, and we understand the agent's problems, and we're going to do it collectively.
Yeah. You know, so can I just ask you both? Clearly, the idea of Proptech funds are not new here.
Well, before we move on, but whoa.
Yeah.
Let me. There's one other. Let's actually go back to you, and for once we ask you a question. Yeah. Look, I brought you into this as, you know, and for everybody who knows us knows that, look, we worked together for 15 plus years. I had to sign off your expense account every year because that's how often I ever got it. But my God, did you grow that business? Yeah. And I think anybody at Reap It now will actually testify to the fact that, you know, you were a massive part of growing that company, and we did it from.
And I grew more massive over the years as well, which was helpful.
That is, both. Yeah, statistically and physically, you did actually grow everything. But what, we've talked about this. What do you bring to the table? Because I know that, but for everybody else.
Well, thank you, first of all. Obviously, yes, it feels like that Alan Partridge moment, and thank you for asking me that question that I gave you. But yes, when I left Repeat, one of the classic things that I just realised was there was a complete disconnect between suppliers and estate agents. Suppliers were quite upset that there wasn't. It was very difficult getting to the long tail of agents. They didn't feel particularly well supported. Agents realized it felt like it was the Wild West out there, both in pricing and the terms, and famous things like auto renews on contracts that happened in the middle of the night for 5-year contracts. So in the wider world, as we know, the B2C world, that doesn't go on. And I thought, let's just bring a bit of those resources, that transparency there. But crucially, as you know, Gary, I've always been involved very closely with the suppliers who have wanted to integrate with systems. And my frustration has been a lot like Andrew's, I guess, is seeing some of these genuine best kept secrets in the industry not get the market share that they deserve. And I think the other side, and I won't name any names, but you only have to go on a Facebook group anywhere with estate agents and see the absolute disdain, and almost now the way that Proptech is almost spat at, because they see these businesses that they feel just aren't earning a living, getting yet another round of funding and everything else, while other much more deserving companies are left on the side. So for me, the excitement of obviously tying together, I think most people would accept we're one of the first ports of calls now for Proptech companies and suppliers in general there. But what was missing was the ability we can give advice, we can point them on to Andrew to help with his side of things, but we couldn't really help them out with the whole financial vision and everything else there. So having an access to you guys, obviously, and your knowledge in that area really, really does excite me. So yes, I mean, thanks on that. What I was just going to say though is, it wasn't original. This in terms, I think the way we're doing it is absolutely unique. Why do you feel, though, that it hasn't been particularly well serviced in the past? What are the weaknesses in the way that it's been done previously, or that we have that just hasn't been acted on?
Go on, Andrew.
Well, it's maturing. The whole thing is, property technology. Really, 2017, 60% of the Proptech companies exploded in the UK in 2017. We're only in 2022. 5 years later.
Yeah.
So
true.
Everyone is feeling their way. How do they do accelerators? What you're going to find in 2 years' time is everyone's going to do it the same way we do. Get all the end users into the mix day one. They can help the founders with what they're doing, but also they get to know the brands. Because what happens is somebody gets market fit and says, okay, I've built something, it's brilliant. You look at it, you go, wow, this is fantastic. It's a shame 16,000 agents or 16,000 surveyors or around the world don't know about it. But if earlier on they'd been involved, they'd already know the brand. They haven't got to spend £250,000 over the next 2 years kind of getting their brand out there, because all the agents already know them, and they'll go, oh yeah, I know so-and-so, and I help with that, and they change their model a bit. And that's the best thing in the world, isn't it? To grow up with a brand.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're going to do. And I think no one else does that. And I think, it's just, again, why don't we put all the bits together? It's a bit like us. There's a trio of us, and it's putting all the bits together. You put all the bits together and you get something much, much bigger. And we want the same thing. People get naturally suspicious of, oh, you're a software company. You just want to flog me things. Too right they do. But if they sell you the best things, your business will make another 30% profit a year.
Yeah,
if you've got 100 branches, if you've got one branch, to have a 30% more uplift is everything to you. But you don't know which bit to plug in, and hopefully they can trust us to say, this is what you need. That's how I see it.
No, that's a really good overview of it. Gary, what about yourself? What do you think?
Well, look, I think first of all, I'm going to say there are some great companies out there that do this already, but they do it as part of a wider fund. I know the guys, I think Pi Labs do a great job. I think Reach do a good job, obviously back with supported by wide larger groups. There are some VCs that I've come across that actually do a really good job. But I think the challenge that they have, and the bit that we need to do differently, is that we are purely real estate. I mean, we're not, the articles that I created for the Nurtur Accelerator is that they invest in prop technology. Yeah, we're not going to invest in a couple of prop techs and then, a widget manufacturer. That's not who we are. It's purely prop tech, and I think that's the distinction that I would make from this. And actually, the other thing as well is going back to the point about why we put the board together, and this is just the beginning of the board as well. I'll be making some announcements in terms of how we fit this in with a wider group. But I think what we're also going to see is that businesses go through stages, and they start off with probably wanting more sales, marketing, branding. Then they shift into scaling and technology. Then they shift into kind of further fundraising and investment and growth capital. And all of us on the board, all of us who are part of Nurtur Accelerator, have different skill sets across that. And I think that's what I've tried to do, is bring a balance to it. So when we put somebody on one of these boards to help them, it could be Simon Wales starts off because it's about building your brand awareness. Gary Barker takes over because we're going to go and do something on the technology front. Mark Phillips supports because, it's about next raising of funding. Ian McKenzie picks up because they want to understand messaging to agents. Andrew picks up because they need PR and exposure. It's those kind of things that we look to give.
Stop! Well, that's just a dream right there. And look, I think it is really useful to hear that. And look, we've got the chosen one who's just commented as well. A man that spans both Proptech and agency to bring unity to the force. Christian Byfield, Proptech is a ridiculously broad category. Lots of funds out there, but focus is usual for commercial or construction. There's no specialist UK, certainly not with the team that gets both ecosystems. Genuinely exciting. So thank you for that.
Do you know, that Christian's an absolute testimony to the kind of thing that, because I've watched Depository and everything, and
amazing.
You look at it and you think, and and I will catch up with Christian, later on this week. But you look at it and you think he's produced a great product, And in fairness, he has done a really good job of kind of scaling that. But he's had to do it in a way that's conducive to the rest of his business as well. He has to do it. He's had to do it off his own back. And I just think they're the kind of businesses that we can help. Or they've got a great idea, they've got a great route to market. How can we broaden that quicker and easier?
That was the key thing. He wanted to go and say to someone, I just need this. And then he realized, hang on a second, I'm in the business. No one has built this. And out of frustration, I'll build it myself.
Yeah.
Now, if we'd have been around
it's
day one,
story. It's a brilliant story.
He would now have exited and be a multi-millionaire. I mean, what he's got is really, really great. And I do know Christian. But he was just a property practitioner who had a problem, and he thought, okay, there must be someone out there who can sort all this. And then he had to put his hand in his pocket, spend tens of thousands of pounds over a long period of time and build the thing, because there was nothing, and he was one of the pioneers. And to get a comment from Christian just shows that we're doing the right thing, because he doesn't suffer fools.
He's the audience. He's the audience we're looking for, isn't it? And you're quite right. Yeah. He has funded that business himself, which is why he tells me every time we go to the bar that I have to pay, which is pretty hard. But don't worry, he's had such a successful time with the Depository. I know he's going to try and highball us, but I've got some photos of him that should knock that price down. So we'll come back to you in good time. But I think going back to the actual sensible part of it again is there are so many now what I've termed Proptech 3.0 now. Those agents that now have the ability to be able to get out there, they shorten the minimum viable product phase because they understand it implicitly. They probably the one thing they are lacking is the funding to actually get it out there. So whether that that's Kaya Area, whether that's Mike Nettleton's fantastic agent response, there's a whole host of these different people out there that are coming up with some fantastic solutions for agents, and because they're agents themselves, they deserve to be paid attention to, don't they?
100%.
Sorry.
I mean, Simon, I've got I've been blown away already by the impact we've had just by launching it yesterday. I've had 12 people contact us literally overnight, just from the contact form on the website, just saying, look, we're really interested in learning more. And, you know, I'm not going to name names, but every one of them without fail has got a point solution that needs to go out there. And every one of them I'm looking at is going, yeah, you know what, we're going to do, and we will be following up with them, and we'll be putting them through, we'll be giving them much more data and information. But that's within, you know, less than 24 hours. So we know that there is a problem out there, and we know that we can help solve it. And I think that's what we're aiming to do.
I think we're repositioning. I mean, what it is, I used to be an agent, and I'd be really suspicious of anyone trying to sell me anything.
I heard you were a dodgy agent and never get your numbers, but that's another thing.
Well, that's the tick in the box of that demographic we need.
Is there any other kind? But the key thing is, they are so deep in their businesses, they do not have the time to differentiate what they should be doing. So most of the time, they do nothing. And that's the big problem. And, you know, deeply suspicious of, oh, this is going to cost me this. What will it do? Of course, the front-end salesperson, business development manager is going to go, yeah, it'll wash your car. It'll make you toast. It'll do anything. Sign on the line. You're smiling, Simon.
Yeah, I'm just remembering my pitch now. Thank you for reminding me.
But the big thing is, we come at it another way. We actually, and this is what I discussed with Gary. I said, look, I only want to get involved if it's going to be companies that are going to be useful to everybody, so they get something out of it, and it's really good for the agents, because I want to make a name of helping people rather than flogging things to people who don't really want it. And that's the basis. You know, bottom line, we are going to enfranchise agents by giving them what they need. And of course, there are founders out there who want to build stuff and become, you know, wealthy. What's wrong with that? Agents want to be wealthy. So too do founders of companies and teams. But we can work together to the same thing.
And we are massively helped here, Andrew, aren't we, and Gary? Because actually, at one stage, you know, the ecosystem was quite closed. It was more Apple-esque in terms of everything else. But because of great work like Foundations at Repeat, MRIs, Desres's open APIs, there is an explosion of innovation and potential to be able to do this. So there really isn't a better time for anybody to be getting involved on this side, especially with more access to dev in the way that people can get to it, rather, you know, which hasn't been possible in the past. So that's very, very exciting. Can I just ask you a question though as well? What do you think, who should we be saying this is right for, and who should we be saying that is there a perfect demographic? Because you know me, Gary, I always want to get to everyone, but is there a perfect kind of photo fit for the kind of company that should be talking to us?
No, I mean, I think I don't think there is a right size fits all scenario to this. I think what you'll find is there will be companies that have got that have literally got an idea. You know, they've got a great idea, but they've got, you know, they understand there's an addressable market for it. They've got a great idea. They've put it on paper. They've done the business plan for it. And actually, they need support in getting a development team together. And I've managed to, as part of the Nurtur group, I've got relationships with outsourced and offshore development teams to kind of facilitate some of those. And therefore, we might invest in those early stages. We'll do fewer of those, I think, is the fair position, because they need more effort. They're going to need more effort and support from us. And I think there'll be a core section of people where they have got a product. It's in the marketplace, but it needs that scaling. It needs that operational piece to it. It needs the kind of customers to engage with it more. Back to probably your skill set, Simon, the solution selling. How does it go out there? And then I think, and that'll be probably our core section. And then I think there'll be another part of it, which will be those businesses that maybe have had a successful product and are looking to actually diversify a little bit and go a little bit wider, and add more product suites into it, and therefore need investment to take that route. So I think that's what I'd put it in that, in those kind of three buckets, if you like. But we control this ourselves. We don't have an investment board thesis that says we have to do A, B, and C. It's in our control, so we can decide what to do about that. And therefore, it isn't a one size fits all, Simon. This is about relationships. It's about us knowing the people, the industry, supporting with the addressable market analysis, and therefore right the way across the board. So, I mean, Simon, you talk to a lot of companies out there trying to do these things. I mean, what's your assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, for me, obviously, just to be able to have the support at a valuable stage. I mean, there is so much innovation out there. You tend to always be missing one element of it, isn't it? And that's what attracts me. Is it doesn't matter where you feel that you are lacking, and it's of course the other thing is it's perfectly okay to say that you're not perfect in every way there. And I'm sure Christian would admit himself he'd have loved at different stages different types of advice. So as you've already highlighted far more eloquently, the right people on that board that can advise you at the right time is where the absolutely value add, the greater than the sum of the parts is on this thing. So I suppose the classic answer is, look, just come and have a conversation. Go to the Nurtur website as well, obviously, which is just there. You can't. Good luck trying to miss any of us on social media even if you wanted to, but reach out in the normal way and just have a conversation with us. We've got Gary directly, Ben, Andrew, myself, Ian. Again, hopefully that's the main thing. We couldn't be more accessible. Yeah. We're not hidden in an investment ivory tower, are we?
What you mean? Me talking from Hard Lane? You mean?
Yeah. I know that's a Greg's in the background, Gary. I can recognize a Greg's facade from anywhere. So the other thing, just to double down on there as well, though, we're not talking about setting limits at this stage, are we? I know a lot of people say, "Oh, that's good," but show me the money. What does the money? The money will be based, won't it, on the investment profile and everything else. And yes, of course, the business will find its way with things, but this has the ability to grow into any level of investment, is my understanding, as long as obviously the investment case is made right and everything stacks up.
Agreed. I mean, we're looking at every investment in a unique way. This isn't going back to that point. It's not a one size fits all. This is a one by one investment case material. We can look at each of these businesses, and actually each business will have different requirements as well. Some of them will want to take investment because they need, the equity, the cash equity to help them grow and develop and to hire new staff. Other of them will want to take investment to help them with technology, and other of them will want to take investment for the customer base. So they will all have slightly different approaches to what they actually need. And therefore, we won't just take a one-size-fits-all of it. It will be bespoke to the individual's requirements.
Oh, you almost said turnkey there, which was going to really get me going. A turnkey solution. I've never really understood, to be honest. But
you told me once that when I said turnkey, what does it mean? So I
did what I always do when I don't understand something. I go, yeah. Okay, I said we weren't going to go too long. I am going to allow a comment as well here. Allow a comment to sound all patronising. No. From Industry Hive, though, again, Andrew makes a great point about agents being afraid of Proptech, when in fact it's designed to save time and money. The confidence in Proptech is growing, and this announcement might accelerate that. Well, I certainly hope so. And I think that point that is very valid there is, if there's one thing that we hopefully can do, it's breaking down the them and us side of things. Because ultimately, we have to be on the same side. It should be supporting it. Yes, everyone's here to make money and everything else, but hopefully through the advice and experience everyone's got on here, there's going to be a nice balancing act between understanding, again, not those companies that make horrible short-term, expensive profits there, but put in place a really long-term plan for success and performance over many months and years.
Yeah, I mean, I think Richard Abbott's just made a really good point. In 10 years' time, your typical agency, you're going to have tech people in the team, in the offices, or, if we have offices. But, there'll be 12 of you, and 3 of you will be tech people. And they'll be the same, they'll be in the team, they'll be invisible. And in fact, property technology won't even exist as a term, much as we got like banking. It's just banking. You don't call it, it's fintech banking, digital banking. Well, it's just, this is how I move my money around. And that's how, that's how we're going to move property around. It's going to be on kind of a digital framework, but with people. And it's just going to be all merged together. And I think, that coming back to it, all the accelerators are still finding their way in the property technology space, because it's 5 years old in this country in real terms. But but the exciting thing is, London is the center, isn't it? I mean, next to New York or the whole world. So we've got the really big strategic advantage. you know, everyone's eating it up. You know,
Tom?
I can't wait to get on, you know, and
No, I
get
absolutely
going.
can. And look, I'm just going to put it out there as well. As I said, it is the Nurtur group. So Nurtur, as we said, eProp, we're going to probably have a follow-up, obviously, there to talk about that. But Nurtur spelled Nurtur. Put in that .group, and you can see further information about, obviously, the ability to get in contact. I'll pop it here as well in the comments for anybody to actually have a look at there and see further information on the back of that. Gents, any closing comments, or are we just keen to get on and start speaking to people?
Main thing for me is, look, I'm really excited by the guys being able to submit now into us and ask the questions, and we'll tell them more about the accelerator, how it can work with them, how it can help them, and making this real. Really, I think you know, that's the key thing for me, is actually to start helping helping the companies now. You know, we've got it set up. We've got the funding is all in place. The framework's all in place. Let's just get cracking with it, really.
Andrew?
Yeah, you know, just reach out. As Gary said, it isn't a case of we're looking for 10, 15 companies, certain profile, we're going to invest in you. We'll talk to everyone from a, you know, MVP or someone's written something down on a napkin to a company that's been going for 5 years and saying, okay, second generation, we now want to do this.
Napkin, the kerfuffle business model.
Absolutely. But the key thing is talk to us. And I know a lot of founders are very nervous to talk to people. We're in stealth mode. I've got to tell everyone, no one's in stealth mode. I get on calls and I'm thinking, yeah, there's someone in Japan's already built this. There's someone in Greater China's already doing this. There's someone in Israel doing this. But if you talk to us, we want to help everybody. And that's agents also as well. You know, it's both sides, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. So it's very much a case of Proptech Avengers assemble, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I'm definitely the Hulk.
Which one are you? I was going to say.
And the Incredible Bulk. We've got too much time for this. Try and keep it professional, Whaley. I almost made it through without demeaning demeaning that. This is normally when Gary looks across the board and says, "Not now, Simon. Not now. Now's not the time." Very excited to no, I mean, if you can't get excited about it, then, you know, I would suggest it's the wrong space to be in. But I think anybody who's interested in there can see what technology has to offer, both from an agent's point of view. Of course, the proof is in the pudding, but I think that's backed up. If you look at the companies that eProp, now Nurtur, have got involved with, that shows that they are really on the money and hitting the right notes. And I think as long as that can continue here, which as long as they don't get the whale bounce, then they're going to be in a really good place. So Gary, Andrew, thank you very much, and looking forward to working with you closer.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it, Simon. I'll catch up with you guys soon.
Well, we're going to obviously have a few more of these just to give more context. So let's certainly develop that as we go. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for commenting, everyone.
Lovely. Thank you.
Cheers.